Hi, I'm Trevor Park from the Fern Creek and Western Garden Railroad, and today we're going to fire up this live steam Forney locomotive and run it around the railroad. The first thing to do is fill the lubricator with oil so that the steam cylinders can be lubricated as the locomotive runs. You want to take off the cab roof first, and then I recommend putting your steam oil in something like this so you can easily fill the lubricator. First thing to do is unscrew the top of the lubricator. And then you just make sure that the blowdown valve is closed. Just make sure it's just tight with your fingers. Now we just fill the lubricator with steam oil. Make sure to only use steam oil, don't use anything else. Steam oil is about the only exotic product you have to use on this locomotive. And now we just screw the top back on. And it just needs to be finger tight. The next thing we do is fill the locomotive's fuel tank with butane. We just use a little attachment that hooks onto this nipple on the fuel tank valve, and then make sure that the fuel is closed, which is this knob here, and then fill it. You'll know there's enough fuel in it when it starts to spit back. And that's full. The next thing to do is fill the boiler with water. We're using distilled water. Don't use any other water like tap water because it will ruin the inside of your boiler. Only use distilled water. On the water fill hole here, we're using something called a Goodall valve, which allows you to just take this attachment with a spray bottle and fill the boiler without having to take the knob off to fill the boiler. It also allows you, if you wanted to fill the boiler while the locomotive is under steam. However, you're not really going to have enough fuel to do that, so it's not really going to do you much good. But if you needed to for some reason, then you can do it. So we're just waiting for the water glass to pump up and watch the water come up in the glass. We wait till we have a little over 3/4 of a glass before we light the locomotive off. That's about good. The next thing to do is light the locomotive off. So we open the smoke box front, and you can see the burner back there. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the valve for the butane, and you'll hear it start to hiss, and then put the lighter up to the locomotive and light it off. And you're trying to get the fire so it's burning in the back of the firebox, kind of where the firebox would be on a real locomotive. So just in the burner, you don't want it going up the boiler too, because that'll ruin your boiler. And so now, we just look at the fire, make sure it looks okay, and then we close up the smoke box. So the next part is actually just a lot of waiting, because we have to wait for the locomotive to build pressure. But while we're waiting for it to build pressure, the best thing to do is actually oil your locomotive. I'm just using some hobby lube oil, light oil for the engine, so you want to lubricate all the moving parts in the running gear. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. This locomotive has radio control in it, so we're using something kind of close to an airplane remote to control the locomotive. So the first thing to do is turn on the power to the remote, and then you turn on the power to the receiver and the servos in the locomotive with the switch here. Now we're just waiting for the pressure to come up on the locomotive. The locomotive pops off at 25 psi, and now we have all the tasks done to get it ready to run, so now we're just waiting. So now we're at about 25 psi, and you can hear the pop valve starting to pop off, so we're about ready to run. And now you can see it's popping off, so we're ready to run. Okay, now to get the engine rolling, you just crack open the steam valve, so then the servo can take control of the steam valve. And now, we just run the locomotive back and forth to clear the condensation out of the cylinders. This locomotive has no cylinder cock, so how we clear the condensation out of the cylinders is just by running it back and forth. you can see it's got a bit high of water today, so it's going to be shooting some water out of the stack. And there it goes, ready to run. So after running around the track a few times, it's time to fire the locomotive down. Generally, we can get about 2 or 3 laps around it on our railroad, which is quite large, so we can actually get pretty good run times out of it. But now it's time to steam it down, blow down the boiler, kill the fire, and do all the things to prepare it to blow it away. The first thing to do is shut down the fire, which is simple as just turning the firing knob clockwise to shut the fire down. And you can hear the simmering stop and the pop valve will stop going off. The next thing is to close up the steam valve all the way. Next, we're going to open the blowdown valve under the lubricator to drain out the water and excess steam oil out of the lubricator. This also relieves the steam pressure from the boiler. So all we need to do is open it part way, and then we're going to crack the steam valve open and then open the rest of the way with the servo. And then all the oil, water, and steam comes out, and the locomotive gets drained. And then we just close down the steam valve with the servo, and then close it tight with our finger, and then we just close up the blowdown valve. And it just needs to be finger tight. Next, you turn off the power to the servos in the locomotive with the switch on the tender, and then you turn off the power to the remote with the power switch. Then we just close up the cab roof, and then to get all the steam oil and water and stuff that the engine barfed all over itself when it was clearing out the cylinders, you just take a sock or an old rag and just wipe down the locomotive. And then you just let your locomotive cool down, and then you can put it away. Alright, and that's how you fire up and run a live steam Forney locomotive from Accucraft. If you liked this railroad and seeing the locomotive run, you can visit our website at fcwgrr.com for the Fern Creek and Western Garden Railroad. And we also have a Facebook group that you can look up on Facebook where you can see updates on the railroad and kind of what's going on with the locomotives and the railroad. And you can check our website for when we're open for open houses, and we hope to see you there. So thanks for watching.